What?
Yo, the MLB live right
What?
now. Let's go Red Sox and Yankees.
We're live.
Sports on
Good
my
evening.
story time stream. On my.
I just got a random notification, so you know. Anyways, yeah. We're starting.
Hi.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Storytime with Scrappy and Friends. The 98th episode, from what my counting is correct.
Yep.
With me today are Harry, Pedriva, and Raideran, back for another edition of The Little Mermaid Power Rangers version.
Can someone put the sun away? It's getting too hot. That's my contribution.
Humanity had its chance in the 80s, Harry.
On the third.
So, we return to the story by Princess Belle, Prince Adam, and when we last left off, Princess Madison, the Blue Ranger, aka Ariel, she's on land trying to fall in love with the prince and get a kiss. She came very close, but
no cigar.
Yeah. And now we reach the point where our Vanessa stand-in has made herself known to Prince Nick. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it, I guess. Most of the rules that the three of us had last session will be retained. I think Raiderman will take over. Pardon?
You mean fixed?
I said retained. Like,
Yeah,
keeping...
it should be fixed.
We're going back to normal.
Yeah. Because remember, by the last chapter, we were all doing each other's roles.
Yeah.
I can't even remember breakfast some days.
Mood.
Well, let me tell you, it was pretty funny.
Breakfast was funny?
Yes.
I mean, yeah,
Yes.
the Lucky Charms, hello? Every time. The
So,
silly rabbit, the tricks, the kids.
Something about those hourglasses makes me chuckle.
Personally, for me, it's the balloons.
So yeah, I guess I'm narrating again, and Raiderman's taking over for Lily. So yeah, that's it. We're just gonna get right into it. It's late.
Mm-hmm.
This is The Little Mermaid, Chapter 12. Nick continued to move towards her without consciously being aware of it. This was instinct. The singing maiden let the note she'd been holding trail off, but she smiled at the prince as his boots left a trail in the sand that led closer and closer to where she stood.
It's you.
He murmured as he came to a stop in front of her.
Of course, Your Majesty.
The girl giggled.
I'm sorry it has been so very long. I've had much to do before I could take an afternoon to myself.
Lily played with the ends of her hair, continuing to smile shyly at Nicholas.
How silly of me. Your Highness, I am Lily.
This name was vaguely familiar to the mermaid princess. Madison furrowed her brow in thought as she tried to place the girl. The blue princess's eyes narrowed as she rethought this assumption. Lily, whoever she was, whatever reason she had to be here, was the mermaid who had ruined their outing earlier. The lone note she had been singing was from one of the Mer People's songs. Xander felt his friend's confusion and anger radiating off her small frame.
Madison?
He asked quietly, knowing it was acceptable to call her by name because the prince wasn't paying them the least bit of attention.
What's going on?
The Blue Mermaid shook her dark head, looking up at her old friend with hurt and confusion in her eyes. Xander guessed that Nicholas had been tricked by whoever this Lily was. He wished Madison could talk, so this mess never would have happened. He wished he could explain to Nick what was going on. but as he wasn't really sure himself, he could not. Prince Nicholas could not believe his good fortune. He had not been imagining things after all. He had been sung to after being pulled from the ocean. The young royal found himself hanging on to every word the lovely maiden spoke to him. They strolled away from his previous companions. Nick was so happy to know that he had not made up the sound of Lily's voice. He was so happy to know that he had. Sorry. Nick was so happy to know that he hadn't made up the sound of Lily's voice that he did not care that he was being rude to Xander and her silent friend. There was a small, rational part of his brain that was frantically trying to get his attention.
How could you have imagined Melody's face and this voice? There's something not quite right here.
But Nicholas ignored the small voice. He wanted to focus on Lily. As Nick and the girl, he now assumed... Oh my gosh, pardon me.
When dogs attack.
Yeah, for real, my dog was barking a little while ago too. That's why I was dead silent for a couple seconds.
The doggos want to join in.
As Nick and the girl he now assumed had rescued him continued up towards the low wall separating the beach from the village, something curious happened. Xander and Madison were still standing at the ocean's edge, fortunately for the visitors they were about to have. Chip and Toby surfaced from the depths of the sea with 2 small splashes. Both Xander and Madison were momentarily shocked. The young noble looked to Madison, sure that these 2 were here for her. Sure enough, the princess's face lit up in recognition. She knelt by the water and reached for the redhead's hand. Princess Madison, your father knows everything, Toby blurted suddenly. King Daggeron's advisor watched as the blue mermaid's eyes looked at him in horror. As it is, Chip and I are risking everything by coming to warn you. Are you close to completing your end of the bargain? Madison flinched involuntarily at Toby's frantic question. She looked over her shoulder at her prince, who was still with Lily. Slowly, the blue mermaid turned back to the 2 mermen she'd known most of her life. Maddie slowly shook her head. Toby and Chip exchanged a worried glance.
Excuse me, but could you tell me exactly what's going on here?
Xander inquired of the 2 newcomers. Clearly, they were not having any difficulty speaking, and they seemed to know about Maddie's predicament. Toby sighed impatiently. You aren't the humans, Prince? When Xander shook his head, the curly-haired merman spoke again. Then who are you? Xander drew himself up proudly.
I am Lord Xander Bly of Briar Woods,
He said haughtily.
I have been Princess Madison's friend for a couple of years. Now will someone tell me how she ended up with legs?
The yellow merman gave Maddie's hand a small squeeze. Then he met the gaze of the young noble and began to explain.
I can't tell who's saying this.
Chip.
Chip. Okie dokie. Maddie fell in love with Prince Nicholas. Her father, King Daggeron, hates humans. So does Vita, her sister. Maddie was forbidden to come to the surface, but she missed the prince.
The green-clad man held up his hand, and Chip let his story trail off.
I'm assuming this is Xander now, or...
It's Xander.
No. Okay. See, I can't tell because they're just referring to them by colors. How did Madison even meet Nicholas?
The fact that Maddie had apparently known the prince for a while was news to his ears. Chip backed the story up a little bit before continuing.
It was his birthday. The same day as she and Vita's. She saw that he was going to drown, and Maddie had to do what she could. Maddie saved His Highness's life by bringing him back to the beach. When he finally came to, she was so happy that she sang.
Xander nodded.
I understand.
He looked at the Blue Princess, who looked back at him with sad brown eyes. He could sympathize. How awful it must be for Maddie to be the one who had never really... Wait. How awful it had... My gosh. How awful it must be for Maddie to be the one who had really been the hero and have to watch Lily take the praise. But at least things were becoming clearer to him now. The story explained the prince's strange behavior at the sound of the singing.
So, after she was banned from returning here to the human world, Madison was miserable. She asked me to help her. Toby here was supposed to keep an eye on the princess, and I helped distract him so he could see Necroli, or she could see Necroli, the sea witch.
Madison made the same expression she had showed Xander back at the palace. She held up her hands, her fingers curled into claws. Xander cracked a slight smile. He guessed, judging by the new information he had, that the Blue Mermaid had been trying to show that whoever had helped her was really evil. The older merman picked up the story. Necroli has long held a grudge against King Daggeron. It was he who transformed her into what she is now. But nevertheless, once Princess Madison explained to Necroli the whole sad story, the Sea Witch agreed to help. She gave Madison legs, but the agreement was that she had to give up her voice. The rest of the contract says Maddie must also kiss the prince within 3 days. The Blue Princess nodded in confirmation of the events her friends had just explained. Xander, now fully informed of all the details, reached for Maddie's shoulder. He gave the mermaid-turned-human a reassuring squeeze.
Don't worry.
Xander drawled.
I can help now. Perhaps instead of waiting for Nicholas, you should take an offensive initiative. Whatever you do, Maddie, it better be done quickly. You only have 1 day left.
Chip reminded his old friend.
And truthfully, I believe Xander here is correct. Your options are running dangerously low, and now that King Daggeron is on his way to Necroli, you may have even less time than you were planning on having.
The Yellow Merman watched sadly as Madison thought over his words.
Good luck.
With another round of splashes, Toby and Chip disappeared as suddenly as they had appeared. Madison stared at the spot where they had been bobbing moments before. Then the Blue Princess straightened up, dusting sand off of her dress. She really appreciated that Chip and Toby had come to warn her. Now she just needed a plan. Back in Atlantis, Daggeron was busy giving his eldest daughter instructions. If I tell you to leave at any time, you must promise me that you will, Vita. I know you are aware of how dangerous the Sea Witch can be. Vita, if you do not promise me, I will send you back right now. Your sister has gotten herself into a mess, and I will need to concentrate fully to get her out of it. I do not have time to worry about you as well. The eldest princess heaved a dramatic sigh. Honestly, her father had to stop giving in to his more theatrical tendencies. But still, Vita knew that Daggeron was very serious about his threats. He always was. I promise, Father, the Pink Mermaid agreed. I want to help my sister, too. King Daggeron nodded in approval. Excellent. And Vita. Daggeron let his voice trail off. He wasn't quite able to put what was on his mind into words. It was a delicate topic. His older daughter stared at him expectantly as they continued to swim out of the kingdom's borders. Father? Vita questioned when the king still remained silent. What is it? If something happens to me, do not blame Madison. I would like to know I leave Atlantis in the capable hands of my daughters, not with two mortal enemies who used to be sisters, and close sisters at that. And I know Chip and Toby have been told they will be punished, but I think we will let that go. Daggeron smiled slightly as Vita slowly bobbed her head in agreement. Then the king came to a stop. Vita mimicked her father's actions, turning to face an opening in a purple rock. Daggeron gave Vita a look that told the pink princess it wasn't too late for her to turn back. Vita gave her father a mischievous,
Mischievous.
a wily smile.
It's a hard word, I know.
She could handle Necroli. There was no way she was going to miss this. Vita squared her shoulders before entering Necroli's domain, her father close behind. The more Lily spoke, the more the prince was finding it hard to believe that they had only met once before. She had to have been made for him. Nick found himself agreeing with whatever she said. She knew what it was like to be kept close to home. Lily lived with her very strict mother, who expected she would take over their small business one day. Lily had very little time to herself, and even fewer friends. Nick could, of course, empathize. He knew what it was like to have a protective mother and no one to talk to about it. Lily, however, did not feel nearly as fond of the prince as he seemed to be of her. Sure, he seemed like a nice boy, especially for a human. But she felt guilty for deceiving him. She had not been at the surface the day he nearly drowned, and had not been the one to save his life. She felt awful about lying to him, and for taking advantage of him. She was taking away someone who was so important to Princess Madison that she had turned her back on her family and heritage, just to be with him. Lily had seen the crushed look in the princess's eyes when Nicholas had walked away. The Sea Witch's daughter was jerked from her thoughts by Prince Nicholas placing his hand on her arm.
Lily? Did you hear me?
His question forced her to put on a smile. She tucked her hair behind her ear, pretending to be embarrassed.
I am so sorry, Your Majesty. I'm afraid I have a tendency to daydream. Would you kindly repeat whatever you said?
Prince Nicholas gave her a kind smile in return. He loved that she was already unafraid to be honest with him.
I wanted to know if you would care to join me and my parents for dinner tonight.
Lily knew she didn't really have a choice. She must not let Mother down. If having dinner with Nick and his parents kept Madison from completing her mission, then she had to accept the generous invitation.
I would love to, Your Highness. Do you think your royal parents will mind an unexpected guest?
Not at all, my lady.
The prince continued to be rather forward with her, and he put his arm over Lily's shoulders.
It is time for us to go now.
He called back to his other friends. Closer to the ocean, Xander and Madison were still attempting to come up with a plan. When Nick announced that they were to depart, a panicked look briefly crossed Madison's face.
Really awkward set of words there, huh?
Mad disease.
Bad disease.
This disease is mad, yo. Sorry.
It changes your entire, species. It's crazy.
Xander chuckled lightly.
We will succeed, Maddie, I promise. I will arrive bright and early at the palace tomorrow, and we will figure it out. Good night, sleep well. See you tomorrow.
Little did Maddie know Xander's punctuality is about on par with mine. I'll meet you at 6 a.m. 8:30 a.m.
I mean, you know, sometimes that's just how it's gotta be. You gotta work around it. You gotta do a little bit of math. You gotta understand, you know?
Close enough.
Just learn the method to the madness, you know? When he says 6:30, you gotta understand that it's actually, you know, you need to carry the 2 beforehand, you know?
The green-clad noble turned away and strode the opposite way. Turned away and strode the opposite way they had come. Madison grimaced. Right now, Xander was the only friend she had in the human world. She gave a silent sigh and followed Nick and Lily's path. I can't with that. The king and queen of Briar Woods were very suspicious as they sat down with their son and his 2 guests. Udana could hardly believe her son had brought home 2 young ladies in as many days. She had waited for years to meet the kind of girl her Bowen would choose, but this was confusing for the red-headed queen. Lean Bow was equally concerned. His son had always wanted to have grand adventures, not meet maidens. And he had been pleased when Nicholas had brought the Silent Lass home. Let me try again. And he had been pleased when Nicholas had brought the Silent Lass home. He was proud that Nicholas wanted to help those in need. But the king did not feel at ease with this new young woman. He could not quite put his finger on it, but he felt something was wrong. Nick, however, was completely oblivious to his parents' unspoken concerns. He was sure this is what love felt like. He found Lily interesting and beautiful, and he wanted to spend as much time as he could with her. He wanted to make sure she never had to lift a finger for her mother again.
And what about Michelle?
The little voice from the beach nagged.
Like, he still can't even figure it out. Even the little voice talking into in his head, he can't figure out her name. It's so good. She needs your help as well. And just this morning, it was she who was on your mind. You're fickle, young prince. You're not in love, but in lust.
Whoa, man, that's a little strong.
You thirsty? I mean, to be fair, you know, he's kind of like flip-flopping between 2 ladies within 2 days. Like, he's definitely, you know, definitely not love at the moment.
He's a little confused, but he has the spirit.
Yeah.
Briarwood's future ruler ignored the voice again. He wanted so much with... Wait. He wanted so much with... What? That's a bit odd thing to say. He wanted so much with the pretty blonde, there was only one thing he could do.
Lily, will you marry me?
Nick, how could you do... How could you do Mildred dirty like that?
Yeah, for real, come on, Mildred. Mildred deserves more. She deserves better.
Poor Princess Millicent.
Man, yeah, seriously, this dude he's all over the place, you know? Like, I didn't really, like, think about this, like, back when I was younger when I actually watched The Little Mermaid, but this is, like, the least faithful, like, prince you could ever have, right?
I mean, in the movie, he was literally brainwashed.
Yeah, but, like, still, it was still, like, the voice that still led him to being brainwashed, you know?
I mean,
it's all
yeah,
like...
but sea witch magic.
But, like, still, you know, just the fact that he still looked that way. He didn't have to.
We can just say he's brainwashed here.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably is.
Probably, like, behind the scenes.
Implicitly.
Yeah.
The other just forgot to make a note of that. By the way.
I mean, I'm sure that's what the little voice in the back of his head is. That's like the normal, like, conscious, while the brainwashed conscious is up front. I've read enough certain materials to see that happen quite a bit. Say it's pretty much a trope at this time.
So that was the end of chapter 12. And now we segue into chapter... What?
Lovely.
Yeah, no, I didn't really say anything of worth.
You just wanted to say lovely real quick.
For a second, I thought you said hopefully, and I was
Hopefully.
like, what do you mean hopefully?
I hate that chapter. I hope it ends quicker.
I was gonna say that would have made no sense.
Hopefully that's the end of that chapter. Who knows?
It's
Maybe
like,
it isn't.
yeah, it is.
What if you click
Believe it
next
or
and
not.
but what if you click next and it says chapter 12 part 2? Then what, huh?
Oh
What do you gotta say
god,
about
chapter
that?
12 too?
Yeah, we're hitting some Attack on Titan season 4 stuff right now, you know?
Oh wow.
I was thinking Final Fantasy 10
Final
too.
Fantasy 10 2,
And 13 too.
13 2.
The proper title is chapter 12, Revenant Wings.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
Revenant Wings.
That's a joke I'm not getting.
That's a follow-up to Final Fantasy 12 on the DS.
Yeah.
Oh. I must have
Connecting it
forgotten
with the
about
numbers.
that.
Does that mean that chapter 13 is gonna have 3 whole parts to it? Crazy. No wonder why this is 19 chapters long.
13 2, and Vita Returns 13.
Vita
Wow.
returns.
Okay.
I can't wait.
Little Mermaid, chapter 13. Queen Udana was the first to react. Absolutely... gosh darn. Who wants to be Udana?
Absolutely not, Nicholas. You are
Thank
out of
you.
your mind. Go on, get up to bed. I shall summon the physician at once. You're welcome.
The red-headed queen got out of her seat and attempted to move towards her son, but Leanbo caught his wife and gently sat her back down. Udana, my love, as much as I hate to argue with you, our son is a grown man now. If he wishes to wed the young lady, who are we to deny him? King Leanbo looked at his son pointedly. As long as you are sure this is what you want, my son. Nick answered his father with a grin.
Yes, this is what I want. Lily?
Excuse me. Everyone's eyes shifted to the newest guest. Prince Nicholas looked hopeful and eager, King Leanbo apprehensive, Udana absolutely furious, and Marcia hurt.
I just realized what you did.
Lily swallowed uncomfortably at the sight of the Blue Princess's shocked and Lily swallowed uncomfortably at the sight of the Blue Princess's shocked and confused expression. If Lily had had someone other than her mother, she would have turned the prince down. But Mother was the only family she had ever known, and keeping Madison from Nicholas was a critical part of the Sea Witch's plot for revenge against the royal family of Atlantis. Trying to ignore the guilt she felt, Lily turned to Nick and grasped his hand.
Yes, Your Majesty. I will marry you.
Nick smiled happily at Lily's acceptance of his proposal.
Okay, it's me, right? Yeah. Most
Pretty sure.
excellent. I realize this is very sudden, of course, but I must confess that I find you absolutely intriguing. I feel like I must know everything about you, and now we have all the time in the world.
Lily forced herself to play the part of a happy young bride-to-be. She put on a big smile and nodded her golden head. Oh.
Yes, we do. And why should we wait? Let's get married. Tomorrow.
She noticed that Princess Margaret's jaw dropped, and then her brown eyes narrowed.
Absolutely.
Nicholas agreed enthusiastically.
I have the best idea. We shall take our guests out on the yacht and get married there. After the ceremony and reception, we can go off on an adventure together.
Already Nick's eyes were shining with this prospect. Queen Udana continued to frown. She spoke stiffly.
Well then, I suppose we ought to be making plans if you insist on going through with this so suddenly. I must say, Bowen, you have come to a decision rather suddenly. I seem to remember a certain young prince saying very recently that he wasn't ready to be married.
Nick calmly met his mother's critical gaze. Normally, he always did as his parents wished him to. It was all that kept them in the safety of Briarwood's borders. But it was fine with him if his parents thought he was rushing into his marriage with Lily. Something was telling him that this was the right thing to do. No one noticed the Blue Princess slip away from the room. Somewhere deep in her cave, Necroli let out a slow, evil laugh. The sound of it made both King Daggeron and Princess Vita stiffen instantly. On your guard, Vita, Daggeron said quietly. He saw her nod just as they were finally joined by Necroli.
Well, well.
She cooed sickeningly. Daggeron's brown eyes narrowed to mere slits as he regarded the Sea Witch. She wore a look of triumph on her once pretty face that only served to make the Merman King angrier. The Triton began to glow, and Vita placed a hand on her father's shoulder. He tried to remain calm. Necroli was a sly, crafty creature. If he lost his temper, she could easily decide to give him false information, and then he might never get his youngest daughter back home safely. He pictured Madison's face, kind and smiling. She reminded him of Queen Julia so very much. Necroli, I need to know what happened to my daughter. Please. The evil smile on the Sea Witch's face only proceeded to grow. She had expected the King of the Land to come storming in and demand that she bring Princess Madison back. But Necroli had not anticipated that Daggeron would be prepared to beg.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
He just cut out
This
so
new knowledge would
suddenly.
make it that much
There he is.
easier to manipulate him. Where did that stop?
I heard you cut off at like bit, but I don't know what word that was because I wasn't looking up at the screen at the time.
I want to
Beg?
say,
Daggeron would be prepared to beg for information.
yeah.
But Necroli had not anticipated that Daggeron would be prepared to beg for information about his daughter. This new knowledge would make it that much easier to manipulate him to get exactly what she wanted.
Certainly, Your Highness. Your daughter came to me with the most heart-wrenching of tales. It seems she has fallen in love with a human boy. She found herself forbidden to see him. So, being the generous person I am, I decided to help the sweet princess. After all, the only thing I ever wanted was to help those who seek my talents. I gave her a tonic.
Necroli's too innocent tone was quickly infuriating both Daggeron and Vita. The Pink Princess's big brown eyes became impossibly narrow as she listened to the Sea Witch's story. It was plain to all that were present that Necroli was mocking Daggeron's decision and gloating about the fact that Madison had turned to a complete stranger for aid. Spit it out already, Vita snarled, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. We need to bring my sister home, and you're going to help us. Tell us what you did to her. If Vita had possession of her father's Triton, she would have destroyed everything she laid her eyes on. The Sea Witch merely continued to smirk evilly.
I see someone has their father's temper.
She observed, still sounding very pleased with herself.
Anyway, as I was informing you, I gave Madison a tonic that would give her the appearance of a human.
Dagron exchanged an uneasy glance with his eldest daughter. Pardon me. Dagron exchanged an uneasy glance with his eldest daughter. There was something the sea witch wasn't telling them. He could feel it. He tried to remember to stay calm. There was something you asked her to do in return. You never let anyone use your services without some sort of payment. What did Madison promise? As soon as the words left the king's mouth, he knew whatever he was about to hear was Necrolai's trump card, and therefore what would horrify him the most.
In exchange for legs and therefore freedom from your silly rules, Madison gave me her voice. We had a deal. If she and the human boy she loves kiss within 3 days, her voice will be returned to her and she will live happily ever after. But if not...
Daggeron swallowed uncomfortably. He definitely did not like the way Necrolai had let her voice trail off. It sounded very ominous to the king. He was trying to make himself speak when his eldest daughter beat him to it. If they don't kiss, what will happen to Maddie? Questioned the pink princess in a low, dangerous-sounding voice. What did you promise her What did you manipulate her into promising, Necrolai?
If Madison fails, she is to live out the remainder of her days here with me in my garden of poor unfortunate souls who couldn't meet their parts of the bargain. It's not so bad. She'll have plenty of company.
Necrolai smiled once more, showing every single one of her oddly pointed teeth. The king nodded once, showing Necrolai that he understood the terms of the deal she had struck with his youngest daughter. And how much longer does Madison have to kiss her human boy? His voice was quiet, resigned.
She has until sunset tomorrow. Would you like to see just how well darling little Madison is progressing with her task?
Both Daggeron and Vita knew that things must be looking grim. Must be looking grim if Necrolai was willing to show them how Madison was doing. They shared yet another uneasy glance, and then the pink mermaid locked her gaze with Necrolai's. I want to see my sister. Necrolai continued to be entirely too agreeable. She picked up the purple seashell she used to spy on people. With a wave of the sea witch's hand, Daggeron and Vita were greeted by an image of Princess Madison. The younger mermaid was sitting alone in a semi-dark room. Her pretty face was tear-stained. That much was clear. Daggeron felt a lump rise in his throat as he stared at the heartbreaking picture in front of him. She was clearly miserable, and things were only going to get worse. King Daggeron tore his gaze away from his youngest daughter and gave the sea witch a long, hard look. He knew now what he had to do to keep his daughter safe. Necrolai, if Madison fails, I will take her place. Princess Madison sat alone in her bedroom at the palace. How could this possibly have happened? How could Nicholas have forgotten about her so very quickly and become so attached to a girl he'd known for an hour? How could he wish to marry Lily? The confused mermaid turned maiden buried her pretty face in her hands. She sobbed soundlessly, feeling betrayed. She had thought she would accomplish her mission, and therefore would get to live happily ever after with Nicholas. Now she wasn't sure. She was terrified of the alternative. Princess Madison knew the poor creatures in Necrolai's strange garden had to live a miserable existence. Bleak, empty, uneventful. She wondered exactly why the Sea Witch insisted on keeping them under her thumb the way she did. There was a quiet knock on her bedchamber door. Of course, Maddie was not able to tell whoever her visitor was that she wished to be alone. The door opened to reveal Lily. Madison felt herself stiffen at the mere sight of her blonde rival. But Lily looked strangely guilty as she crossed the room and sat down next to Maddie on the bed. The blonde gave the dark-haired girl a small, nervous smile. Maddie did not give one in return, but this didn't seem to bother Lily.
I know who you are.
Lily told her, and Madison was surprised that Lily, whoever she was, truly sounded apologetic.
I'm so very sorry about this whole mess you're in. I'm not making it any easier for you.
Madison gave Lily a suspicious look. She did not like the fact that Nicholas's fiancée seemed to know too much. Looking around, the Blue Princess spotted a small stack of parchment, a little bottle of ink, and a quill on top of the writing desk. Maddie unfolded herself from the bed and crossed to the writing supplies. She collected her equipment and returned to the bed. The Blue Mermaid began scribbling furiously in Atlantean. When she gave the paper to Lily, it read,
Who are you? How do you know so much?
Lily sighed quietly, but she looked like she had known these questions would be inevitable. The blonde girl took a deep breath to brace herself, and then she forced herself to meet Madison's gaze.
I'm Necrolai's daughter, Princess Madison.
It didn't surprise the former Green Mermaid when Maddie gaped at her in shock. And that's the end of chapter 13.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but yeah.
Before I continue, someone expressed confusion, I guess, over the color coordination. Just for everyone's convenience, cast member and audience, I'll just remind everyone, Maddie is blue, Vita is pink, Xander is green, Chip is yellow, Nick is red, and Daggeron is gold and navy.
Let's go, Daggeron, being a cool one and all that. But yeah, that definitely threw me off when Chip started to talk, because I had no clue it was Chip because they just said the trawler. I was like, wait a minute, who is this?
Yeah, I've had to remind myself a few times.
Yeah. And we're making good time, just gotta say.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like
how
these
long have
chapters
we-
went pretty fast. It's been like
Yeah,
43 minutes.
40 minutes, yeah.
Yo, that's
Doesn't
crazy.
feel like it.
Fairly short chapters.
Mm.
Kind of nice. But it's moving fast. I
Yeah.
mean,
We're
as fast
fucking
as the end of-
moving.
yeah. Schmoving alright for sure.
Yeah.
How fast are we gonna be able to move, huh? You think we'll finish today, huh?
Absolutely not.
I don't know. I mean, there's only chapters 14 through 19 left, you know. Like, we can do it.
Unless you...
Speed read time.
Yeah.
Speed read, let's go. It's Rap God time.
I was going to say, on the subject of, I guess, the deal of how, I guess, Madison was supposed to triumph, I guess it brings up a point of the original movie. I've seen that movie a lot of times, but the implication is that Ariel gives up her voice in exchange of getting the legs. She's meant to kiss the princess in 3 days. If she does that, she gets to stay human. But I don't think Ursula ever says she gets to keep her voice, gets her voice back. That's always been something like, so does she just stay mute?
True evil.
Eh,
Well, I mean, she
but-
succeeds in the end, doesn't she?
I mean, kissing Eric before the deadline? No. But that's because Ursula kept interfering.
Really?
The very long silence into really. For some reason that got me really good.
Right around how many times have you seen The Little Mermaid?
Not once. Never.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh,
I
man.
remember Raider
Congratulations.
saying that.
Literally, the first Disney princess movie I ever saw was Frozen.
Oh wow.
That's
okay.
crazy.
I mean,
So like not even Mulan? Like technically that's a
Oh
Disney
shit!
princess
Well,
movie.
yeah. Okay. So I did watch Mulan.
Okay.
Okay, so you are at least somewhat cultured.
Like, I watched Mulan, and then years later Frozen, and then Tangled after Frozen.
Understandable. I mean, I feel like Tangled.
And I
is one of
watched
those
Tangled in
movies-
school. I don't even remember
Oh my god,
why.
same. Okay, so like back in 6th grade, we had this field trip, and our field trip was to an island a little off the coast. And on that field trip, they had Tangled playing on the TV screen. Everyone got to pick what movie they wanted to watch on the boat ride there to the island. And everyone was like, "Oh my god, Tangled!" I was like, "I don't know what this is," or at least I didn't care at the time. All I knew is that they gave Rapunzel a frying pan, and that was my first time watching Tangled. And I don't think I've really actually ever watched it since. I think that was my only time.
See, you watched it like you said you watched it on the way to a field trip.
Yeah.
I watched it in class. I think it was like end of the year.
Me in 9th grade, because I'm not a zoomer like you two.
I mean, I haven't seen a lot of Disney movies in general in years, so a lot of my memory for a lot of them is like almost non-existent.
Oh yeah. The only like major memories I have with Disney movies now are like memories of when I first watched them, or memories of when I was obsessed with specific ones. Like when I was like 9, I used to watch the Aristocats like every day.
Oh yeah, the Aristocats.
And I was the same way with Alvin and the Chipmunks when that came out. I watched that every day too. I was like, oh my gosh, this movie's great. I once watched it 3 times in a row on the same day. My
parents
brother
told me-
hated it.
My parents told me I used to watch Monsters Inc. a lot as a kid, but I don't remember watching it that much.
Not that much, you know.
I know I've seen Aristocats at least once. I know that much.
Yeah, it's a movie. Really,
Anyway.
it's everybody who wants to be a cat waiting room.
Pretty much.
Anyway.
Moving
Alright, we
forward.
jump to Little Mermaid, chapter 14. Oh, wait, I remember. They keep calling the Trident the Triton. Triton is the name of the father in the movie itself. Trident is the name of the weapon.
Okay, I was wondering, like, is there a difference between a Triton and a Trident? And it's like, I
You know,
just rolled
Trident-
with it. I didn't even think anything of it.
Yeah, I know. Trident is the gum, duh.
Oh, you're
That's
right.
the
It's the... yeah, that's it.
Like I think Trident is like just a. The name Trident is also kind of just like a shorthand for the weapon itself. It's also sometimes referred to as a Poseidon because Poseidon.
Yeah,
So-
they should just call it fork. It's just that much
Just
easier,
a
you know.
fork.
Just call it fork.
The correct terminology is Dinglehopper.
Yeah, Dinglehopper, correct. Unfortunately, I don't refer to things by their scientific terms. You know, you don't see me walking around calling water H2O or hydrogen dioxide.
It's dihydrogen monoxide, excuse you.
Hydrogen. There it is.
Yeah, my room is too warm. Can someone turn off the sun? There's no sun in my area right now, but you know what I mean. Okay, so chapter 14 isn't particularly long, but we're gonna just get into it.
Right.
Father, are you sure about this? Princess Vita questioned the Atlantean ruler, her voice changing every line. She could not believe her father would be willing to take Madison's place. Of course, the elder princess was worried about her sister's safety, but for Daggeron to sacrifice himself for Madison's mistake. Daggeron gazed at the pink mermaid sternly. Vita, you do not understand the love I have for you and your sister. One day, when you have children of your own, you will. Madison has made a serious error in judgment by trusting Necroli. He tossed a dirty look in a devious hybrid's direction. But she is still my daughter, and I will do what I can to protect her. The pink mermaid didn't let her temper get the better of her for once. King Daggeron was right. Maddie had to come home safely. No matter how offended and furious Vita was at her sister's betrayal of their family and entire way of life, her father was doing the right thing for his children and the kingdom. She and Madison were Atlantis' future rulers. The kingdom's well-being depended on them. I remember what you told me, Father, and I will honor my promise. Daggeron nodded in approval, and as he and Vita turned their backs on the diabolical sea witch, he gave his daughter a grim smile. But Necroli was not about to let the king go quite so easily. She had waited too long for her revenge.
Not so quickly there, your highness,
She said, and a sneer was evident even though neither royal was actually gazing at her. Both princess and king paused, and Necroli swam in front of them, blocking their exit.
I do believe you have a contract to sign, Daggeron.
The king looked a bit uneasy at Necroli's demand, but he knew he had to comply with the Sea Witch's wishes if Madison was to be returned home safely. Of course, Daggeron replied, forcing himself to remain calm, much as Vita had. He could not afford to anger Necroli. The hybrid sorceress gave the king an evil smile that quite honestly sickened his majesty. With a wave of her hand, Necroli produced a scroll of parchment. She presented it to the king with a flourish. She was plainly excited as she watched Daggeron sign his name.
Excellent. I will call at the palace tomorrow evening with news about Madison. She still has one day to succeed.
Vita wanted to throttle Necroli for the taunting tone the Sea Witch was using. The Pink Princess noted even as she tried to control her fiery temper, the tips of her fingers began to glow a soft golden color, much like her father's Triton did when he was in one of his rages. Strange, she thought, as Daggeron seized her wrist and towed her from the Sea Witch's cave. Lily waited for the princess to do something. So far, all Madison had done was gape at her. Necroli's daughter sighed very quietly.
Princess Madison, I never wanted to do this. I do not love the prince, and I have no desire to marry him. But my mother, she's my only family. I'm sure you just understand.
Maddie could tell that Lily was being sincere. And family was important to the Blue Mermaid turned maiden, despite the fact that she had all but abandoned her father and sister. Finally, she nodded and gave a small smile. I wonder if they know they're cousins. This little gesture gave Lily a pleasant feeling, as if she and the mute mermaid were forming the beginnings of a friendship. Lily had never had a friend her own age before. Her life had revolved around her mother's schemes, and she liked the way it felt, sitting here with Madison, whereas her mother's plot made her so uncomfortable. In the spirit of this alliance, Lily knew she had to do what was. Oh my gosh! In the spirit of this alliance, Lily knew she had to do what was right, even if it meant turning her back on Mother. She had to speak to the prince, tell him the whole story. Perhaps he would think she was crazy, but Lily found she really didn't mind his thought. She had to help the princess. What Mother had planned, it was wrong. She spoke again.
Princess, as I am sure you have figured out, it was I who capsized your boat earlier today. I am terribly sorry for spoiling your moment with Prince Nicholas. It is plain to me that you love him so very much.
The blonde girl felt an extra stab of guilt as Madison's face lit up with a kind smile at the thought of the prince. Lily pressed on.
I tell you this because my mother didn't wish to help you at all. The second you sought her assistance, she was planning to overthrow your father and seek her revenge for making her become what she is now.
If Maddie had possessed the power of speech, she would have let out a startled gasp. The pieces were all coming together. Of course, the devious sea witch had known. Of course, the devious sea witch had known to use her desperate plea for help against her and her family. The youngest mermaid princess felt ashamed of her actions. If something were to happen to Vita or father. In a friendly gesture that came naturally, Lily put her arm around Madison's shoulders.
She hopes to have your father take your place in the event that you fail in your task.
The raven-haired girl looked at Lily in horror, and the blonde squeezed her gently. After a moment, Maddie pulled out of the friendly embrace and took the quill and parchment in her hands again. She resumed her frantic writing. When she handed it back to Lily, there was a short second message scrawled beneath the first.
You have to tell Nicholas. This has to end.
As Lily finished reading, she nodded her blonde head in agreement.
I won't let it happen, Your Highness. Necroli may be my mother, but I can't condone her plot.
Lily then stood up from Madison's bed. She gave the princess a reassuring smile, and then she crossed to the door.
I am going to get the prince now, Your Majesty. We are going to explain this whole situation, and everything shall be fine. You can trust me.
Hesitantly, Maddie smiled back. Could Lily, a girl she had hated half an hour before, really be her ally? She had to be. It wouldn't have been so easy for her to turn her back on her mother otherwise. And after the warning Lily had just given her, Madison couldn't help but feel she had a new friend. When Necroli's daughter stepped out into the palace corridor, she ran straight into Queen Udana. The red-haired woman still did not seem particularly thrilled about her son's sudden engagement to this young girl, but nevertheless, Udana retained her grace. Bad.
Oh. I was so used to not having to say anything. I thought we were gonna make it all the way to the end. I was like, dang, we're at the end of the chapter. I don't even get a line, but nope, there I am.
So close.
Yeah, so close. Okay, let me just make sure. I looked away. Where exactly are we again?
Third to last paragraph.
Okay,
Come along,
so
Lily.
that's correct. Okay, I just needed to make sure that
Yeah.
that there wasn't something else up higher.
No, that's it.
Okay, good. Come along, Lily. I'm bringing you to the seamstress's quarters. You must be fitted for your wedding gown.
Udana put her arm around her future daughter-in-law's shoulders and led her away. Lily was helpless to resist. How exactly was she to explain to Briarwood's queen that Nicholas was needed to break a spell and prevent a complete disaster? Oy.
I'm sorry, princess.
Lily thought as she was taken to a luxurious sewing room. She couldn't help but feel she had failed.
Change the world. My final
My
message.
Is that really the end of the chapter already?
Yes, sir.
Yep, that's it.
Feels like it barely started.
Probably because I only got to say one thing.
Damn.
I got one line the entire
I
chapter.
feel like I'm blinking and the chapters just go by.
Exactly.
Enjoy it while you
If it
can,
means
Harry.
anything, we're exactly an hour in now.
Well,
So-
yeah. Well, are you gonna make the Sea Spring fanfic like 10 hours long?
I haven't even written it yet, so
I forgot that was.
I'm gonna be on Scrappy's ass because it's gonna be episode 100. It has to be. I'm not taking anything else.
It's gonna make it a reality.
We need this to be a thing.
Yeah,
gonna be
either we
horrible
get
and
it
it'll be
or
great.
we're stopping at episode 99.
It's gonna be the best worst thing ever.
Yeah.
it's gonna be meh. Just aggressively meh.
Scrappy sends a message. It's time to do episode 100, and Harry immediately responds with, "Is it the fanfic?"
Yes, that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Just gets pushed back further and further until it's actually the fanfic.
Yeah, see you guys in like a year.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be like 2072 or something. We're all just gonna be like really old and decrepit, and Scrappy's just gonna hit us up one day and be like, "Finished it." Within that moment, all of us de-age 50 years. And we're like, it's time to go.
At that point, I'd be like, wait, what's the story time of Scrappy?
What's a Scrappy again?
Like we just completely cut communication with each other, and like, and then we just like wait, who are you again? Oh god. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna do another chapter, or are we done?
I don't know what this silence is.
Yeah.
Silence means I'm tired, but
Yeah.
this is like chapter 5. Like we read like what 3-4 chapters last session, so I think we're just gonna read 4 today and then 4 next
Yeah,
session. and then,
I was gonna say like
Yeah, that
if-
sounds right. Yeah.
if we're gonna if you want to try and finish this next time, then may as well like make it even.
Yeah, consistency is key.
consistency. What's that?
Because
Something new around here.
it'd be really weird to do like something else in episode 100 and then suddenly back to this.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
True.
So
Although
you're saying we
you
should do
know-
that.
I mean, a short
We're
show.
gonna stretch this out to episode 110. We're gonna start reading half chapters.
Yeah.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna just go through chapter 15 and call it a day.
Yeah. There we go.
Prince Nicholas woke the next morning feeling well rested and very excited. He could not believe he had met the girl he would marry. They would have a long, happy life together, and it would all start today. He knew his mother and father were very concerned about this sudden marriage, but he knew he couldn't be making a mistake. Lily had saved his life. It was destiny. The prince dressed for the day in a simple red tunic and black breeches. What the heck are breeches?
I don't know. Maybe that's like another word for britches? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah,
breeches. Like,
Yeah, those might be pants.
I'm gonna look this up now. Breeches.
he might not be wearing pants at all for his wedding day. Like, that's a possibility.
Breeches. Okay, it is an article of clothing. Hold on.
He's like that
Trevor-
He's like that meme of like my own wedding day, and this is this guy dressed in sweatpants and a sweatshirt.
Yeah. Okay, so breeches are an article of clothing covering the body from the waist down, with separate coverings for each leg, usually stopping just below the knee. So they're shorts.
They're shorts.
Though in some cases, reaching to the ankles. They're not shorts.
No, they're sometimes shorts.
Only sometimes.
The
Yeah,
prince dressed for the day.
only when they feel like it.
Yeah.
The prince dressed for the day in a simple red tunic and black breeches. He would look far more presentable later at the ceremony. He exited his quarters feeling cheerful. The palace was in an absolute frenzy. Servants were bustling around with linens and the best silverware, carefully packing the goods before delivering them to the stable boys to send down to the royal yacht docked in the harbor. But despite all the chaos his wedding was causing, no one looked upset at the extra work. As he passed through the corridors, all the young men and women looked at him with happy smiles. Nick returned every grin sent his way. He was just as thrilled to have found Briarwood's next queen as they all seemed to be. Just as Nick was reaching the grand entrance hall of the palace, Lord Xander was escorted inside. Xander had been very puzzled as to why he had received a summons from Nicholas late last night. But from the hustle and bustle in the village, the green-clad man had deduced that the prince was engaged.
Xander.
Nicholas said in greeting, and as Xander sunk into the customary bow, he thought he had never seen the prince so happy. The young lord was just as excited. It was perfect that Madison was going to get everything she had ever wanted.
Will you take a walk with me?
The prince asked.
There is something I would like to ask you.
Xander nodded and turned back to the great oak door of the palace. Together, the two young men made their way down through the village to the harbor and climbed aboard the yacht. Though the vessel had been the place of frantic activity since dawn, the process seemed to be sped up further now that the prince was here to oversee the preparations. Nick and Xander watched as the collection of small round tables were covered with light blue cloths and place cards were set out. There was also a section for the four-piece band to sit, and at the... Is it pronounced bow or bow?
I actually have I think it's bow.
What? I looked
Bow
at
of the ship.
Yeah, it's bow.
And at the bow of the ship, a small altar was being set up. The prince looked around at the decorations and beamed. He and Lily's wedding would be perfect. He could not believe he was so fortunate.
You said you wanted to ask me a question, Your Majesty.
Xander prompted. Though Nicholas's cheerfulness at his good fortune was infectious, Xander wanted to find Madison and congratulate the princess on averting the disaster her friends had warned her of. Nick glanced at his fellow young noble.
Please, Xander. Call me Nick. Is he gone? Am I gone?
No, it just said, for whatever reason, Nicholas's line was broken up into two... Like, his dialogue was broken up into two lines, that's why the...
Oh, yeah, that does look
okay.
weird.
Yeah, that's weird. I didn't catch that at all. And you're quite right. I do wish to speak with you.
The red-clad prince cleared his throat, suddenly seeming a little bit nervous.
I've never been eager to make friends among the other young people of our class. But I must admit that I've taken a liking to you, Xander. And I should like to count you as my ally. I was wondering if you would like to come along with Lily and I on our trip. A king needs a good right man, and I'd like you to be mine.
But the only part of this statement that Xander caught was the phrase, Lily and I. The dark-haired man felt his jaw drop.
Well, what do you mean, you and Lily? That's who you're engaged to?
Xander spluttered. Nicholas nodded slowly, now questioning his decision to invite Xander along on his trip.
I don't know how I already lost myself. Okay. Right, that's correct. Yeah, of course, Lily is my fiance. There's something about our relationship that no one else knows. I've been planning on announcing it at the ceremony.
The prince's voice trailed off, and he saw a look of annoyance briefly flash across the green-favoring nobleman's face.
What were you going to announce at the ceremony?
Xander pressed. He could not believe Nick wanted to marry Lily and hoped to... Wait. He could not believe Nick wanted to marry Lily and hoped to the... What? Hoped to the hind the sudden engagement? Did
I
anyone
don't
say
know.
hope to hinder the sudden engagement?
Maybe?
What was it?
Yeah,
what
probably
does it
hinder,
say?
probably
What-
hinder.
It says, hoped to the hind this sudden engagement.
Yeah, the whole sentence is he
Yeah.
could not believe Nick wanted to marry Lily and hoped to the hind this sudden engagement.
Yeah, that's
Pretty sure that's supposed to be hinder.
Yeah, that sounds like a massive typo to me.
Yeah, hope to hinder sounds right though.
Hope to the hind. Like, that sounds like...
Hope
Is that
to the
some-
hind.
That's some
Yeehaw!
old Shakespearean English I'm missing.
Maybe.
Anyways, I guess I read now. I guess like we could, since we said sudden engagement quite a few times already. Yeah. On my birthday, I nearly drowned, but a girl dragged me to shore, and she got the water out of my lungs. Then she sang to me. It wasn't a tune I'd ever heard before, but I did not forget that voice. Well, Xander, Lily was my rescuer. It was destiny.
That same euphoric grin settled on the prince's face once more. Xander nodded.
I must return home to ready myself for our journey. I thank you for inviting me along, Your Majesty. I congratulate you on your engagement.
And without waiting for the prince to reply, Lord Xander turned on his heel and strode back through the village. Madison had woken that morning to a frantic Lily shaking her arm. The Blue Princess hadn't been willing to be very friendly towards her blonde rival after the stunt she had pulled the previous night. Except they were willing to be friendly to a point. But Lily had hastily explained to the raven-haired princess that she hadn't been given the opportunity to speak to Prince Nicholas. She had been interrupted by Queen Undana and taken to the tailor's wing for the wedding gown to be fitted. She said this with such a sincerely apologetic face that all the doubts Maddie had formed about Lily's true motives had vanished. They didn't have much time to themselves to discuss their next move. Hardly 10 minutes had passed since Lily had finished her tale when the door to Maddie's bedroom opened and the Queen bustled in. She swept them both off to visit the seamstress, and a plan could hardly be formed with all those extra ears listening. After several hours of measurements and adjustments, the two girls were dismissed from the seamstress's workshop.
I think we shall find some lunch.
Lily announced casually. There was no response other than a slight smile from the tailor, and then the two girls all but dashed to the door. As they entered the palace corridor, they ran into none other than Lord Xander, fresh from his seaside trip with the prince. When he saw Madison, he smiled and then spoke hastily.
Princess, Nicholas plans to wed Lily and...
The green-clad noble stopped dead when he saw the aforementioned blonde standing at the Blue Mermaid's side.
What did you tell Nick? You didn't rescue him, Lily. Madison did.
It was easy to see Xander was working himself up into quite a rage. The brunette princess put a hand on... Holy shrimp. The brunette princess put a hand on her friend's arm. The expression on Maddie's face perfectly conveyed that he needed to calm down. He did, but his dark eyes were still narrow as he regarded Lily.
I'm from Madison's world.
Lily informed the Green Lord in a cool, distant tone.
I'm trying to help the princess succeed in defeating my mother's plot.
Xander couldn't believe his ears. This whole situation could just not get any stranger.
Wait a moment. You said the sea witch is your mother? And you don't want her to get a revenge on Maddie's father?
He continued to look at the blonde girl suspiciously. Lily met Xander's accusatory glare calmly.
All my life, I've watched my mother scheme to ruin people's dreams, Lord Xander. And I've always gone along with her. She is my only family. But this time, it's too much. I promise I am on your side.
There was nothing but conviction in the Green Mermaid's eyes. It would have been It would have been wonderful and very beneficial if they had been given the chance to put their heads together. But the Queen demonstrated her awful timing once more. She appeared in the corridor, now dressed for the wedding in a light pink silk gown, her long red locks twisted up into an elegant bun. She stood between the two young ladies, a hand on each of their shoulders.
Come along, my dears. Your dresses have been sent ahead to the yacht.
She murmured.
Lovely to see you as always, my lord.
Udana added to Xander.
Care to join us in our carriage? We have room for one more.
Xander bowed before Briarwood's queen.
The pleasure is all mine, my queen.
He said in his thick accent. The Green Noble fell into step beside Madison, and the quartet made their way down to the stables. Then they were joined by King Leanbow. The king complimented the three women very generously, and he too informed Lord Xander what a pleasant addition he was to their little party. The three younger passengers in the carriage were very quiet. Things were happening too quickly, and time was running out.
And that's it for this
Suspense.
chapter.
This
It has
is-
been done.
The suspense is killing me. I can't believe this.
The suspense.
So much suspense. How can they do it?
The tension is rising.
Insert KH2 theme here.
Dun 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 dun.
That theme.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
a song that's deeply engraved into my memory. I turn my brain off and it still plays.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, no, like when I pass away, they're just gonna have to deal with the tension rising playing out of my skull for the rest of eternity. They're gonna walk by my grave and they're just gonna hear
Wow.
it playing. They're gonna be terrified. They're gonna be like, "Oh my god, what's happening?" The tension's gonna rise around them. So yeah,
Oh man.
I see we're moving towards a very natural conclusion. You know, we've got a betrayal going on. That's always sick. You know, when one of the bad guys goes onto the good guy's side, I always love that. You know,
Redemption arc.
redemption.
Let's
really
go.
The
I
hype
felt
is
really
real.
bad about ending the Kiss the Girl theme song, so you know, had to join the good guys.
It's a banger, so she should feel bad.
Really, like legitimately, Kiss the Girl was like my favorite Disney song for a long time when I was a kid.
So, yeah, I'm enjoying these chapters. I guess one thing I just prefer, over from this story over the movie is, the titular mermaid sister, singular now, does more than Ariel's sisters did in the movie.
Yeah, you know, like the only reason why I remember that Ariel has sisters is because there are like 6 direct-to-DVD Little Mermaid movies that star them. So
There are that many.
there are
Well,
a
there's
lot.
2 direct-to-video sequels and only 1 feature focuses on them.
No. There's quite a few. Okay.
No,
Trust me
there's
on
Little
this.
Mermaid.
There are like 6 Little Mermaid movies.
I remember.
What are you talking about? There's
I
1,
remember
2, and then...
I remember seeing the TV show.
Yeah, you're probably getting your wires crossed with the movies and the TV show, which did occasionally focus on the sisters, but
Ah,
really not that often either. Like, it's... Movie 1, movie 2 with the daughter, movie 3 is a prequel, and that gives more focus to the sisters.
Yeah.
And that's it. I wish there were 6 Little Mermaid movies.
That'd be crazy.
You wish.
You wish. Keeps on going. It's the same cycle over and over again.
I mean,
Eventually, we get Ursula's daughter wanting to become a human.
God. I mean, visually, The Little Mermaid is like one of the best Disney movies, I think.
At least it was around the. It was one of the big ones during the Renaissance. I don't know
Right.
if I call it one of the best, but
Well, no, I'm just talking about like visuals and like animation. It's
visuals,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Timeless.
It's not one of my favorite movie. Like, it's not like my favorite Disney movie or anything like that. But I just like the visuals of it.
Mm-hmm.
6 Little Mermaid movies, goodness gracious.
Mermaids, nah, trust me on this, trust me.
I'd rather trust my brain.
There might have been like Disney Channel originals instead.
No, there were 3 animated movies, and then 31 episodes of a TV show.
I just
Well,
love
I've never
how
seen the TV show, so
I just love how adamant like Scrappy is on this. Like, no, there's 3 of them.
Because there are 3 of them. This has been.
I mean,
it could have just been
I
specials.
don't.
Then I should have just gotten that mixed up.
I genuinely don't. I have no horse in this race. I have no idea.
I've been marathoning everything on Disney Plus, and I mean everything.
I feel like
there were
those things
6
wouldn't be the kind of thing to be on Disney Plus though, because
If
there
they
are a
were
lot of things that
anime-
aren't on Disney Plus. Like a lot of things that aren't on Disney Plus.
Oh, dude.
If they existed, I would know about them. They do not exist. There was one Little Mermaid movie that focuses on the sisters, and it's the last one, which is
Yeah,
the
that's
third
why
one.
I'm saying that they might have been like TV specials instead.
There are no
movies.
TV specials, just this movies and the TV
Okey-dokey.
show.
If I look the other way, it doesn't exist.
Did you know of the Little Mermaid's Island in the 90s?
Oh, Mermaid's Island.
That was a
Every single
proposed.
time I hear Island at the end, I can't help but think about Total Drama now, or Survivor.
Wow.
It was a proposed live-action show that would use some puppetry for the animal characters. Apparently, like 2 episodes were filmed, but never really went to air. So now you know.
Sounds like the life of a lot of TV programs, huh?
So yeah, that's all I got. Okay, so I enjoy that a sister gets to get a little more plot focus in this story, and Lily's interesting because she's like taking the role of both like Vanessa, which is just Ursula in disguise, and Flotsam and Jetsam, the eels. In a way, making her kind of like more sympathetic is actually closer to like the unnamed human princess of the original Hans Christian Andersen tale, though. Because that character who basically inspired Vanessa in the animated film was not evil at all. She did screw the mermaid out of romance, but she didn't mean to.
Right.
So yeah, that's my contribution.
I
I've
don't
enjoyed it
really.
so far.
I don't really have anything to say.
And we're at like the part right before the very big moment, so it's kind of just like, can't wait for next time.
I haven't read these last few chapters since 2010. When I recall, no giant kaiju battle, so...
Oh, come on. But that is literally in the movie, kind of.
Yeah.
No, unfortunately, no... As far as I know, no giant sea witch, which means no Megazord.
Dang.
I'm stupid.
No, musical number.
What do you mean? We can all just sing anyways. We'll do Swim This Way, That one's the only one that's going to be canon to the Power Rangers story.
That song is awful.
you guys
No,
can
but
sing.
have you
I don't
heard
know
the Japanese
shit.
version, though?
No.
It only gets
Oh,
weirder
well,
when
I
you
think
hear
I-
it in a language you don't know.
I think I have actually in a randomizer. It was like
Gotta say,
it was like a battle theme for someone.
Now that's funny.
Oh, I gotta show you guys something after the stream's done now.
Oh gosh! Look what you've done.
Hey, Swim This Way, it's a peak moment in Kingdom Hearts history, okay?
Yeah.
Also, like playing Kingdom Hearts in Japanese, so you hear Donald Duck speaking Japanese instead is also just like that's something that's
I'm gonna have to voice
amazing.
Donald Duck at some point, so that's gonna be fun.
God damn, you should be like, I took inspiration from the Japanese voice actor to sound like
I'm probably-
snobbish. It'd be
I'm
pretty
probably
good.
just gonna give up and just do the voice in that one episode of the DuckTales reboot.
No.
Like Gyro just comes out of nowhere and just gives in the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all I got. We're approaching the end, and then that'll be, I guess, the lead up to episode 100 of whatever
Seaspring
that
fanfic,
entails.
What?
Fight me.
What?
I said Seaspring fanfic, yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't have anything really.
I need to turn on the air conditioning, so I'm good. What about everyone else?
The
Yeah,
heat,
I'm just about done.
the heat sucks. The end.
But it's nighttime right now.
Still hot.
Hey, okay. It may
You
be
wanted
nighttime
the
where
sun
you're at.
gone, and it's
Hey,
gone.
hey,
What
hey,
more
hey,
do you want?
Hey,
Be gone more.
okay. to be fair, you know, the three of us, we're in the United States of America, right?
America.
So, America. So, just consider the following, okay? Okay? And the sun may be down for you two, but it's still up for me. West
Hey.
Coast represent. The sun's
That's
still
true.
up, still hot as balls. You know? So, technically, you know, if we say it's nighttime in America, that's not the truth. It's only nighttime in part of America. We gotta respect the other half of America that's living in the past, you know?
Respect the
Living in the
West
past.
Coast.
The West
How
Coast.
could I?
Hey, you know what they say West Coast? They say West Coast, best coast.
Oh god.
We get more daytime, but not actually. But yes, but no. But actually, but maybe not. Who knows?
Anyway, I thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a peaceful night or whenever you're watching this.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
I sound so enthusiastic.